This week, after making it clear that he had never been to Jeffrey Epstein's private island, Donald then admitted that he'd been invited and called a visit there a quote unquote privilege. Now, this is something he said this week, not 20 years ago. So think about this. We now know that Jeffrey Epstein's private island was a place where he had girls and young women trafficked to so he and potentially many others could rape them. Donald knows that now, and still he described being invited to a place where children were trafficked and abused and raped as a privilege. That is how depraved this man is, and that is the kind of company he is apparently quite comfortable keeping. That's why what we're seeing should surprise none of us. In just the past week, 4 separate stories have surfaced involving Republican lawmakers and officials who are facing allegations of charges of sexual abuse, exploitation, and explicit misconduct. The rot in the Republican Party is so pervasive now that it's hard to see anything but the rot. The very same Republicans who scream about protecting women and children are being exposed and exposing themselves, quite frankly, over and over again as predators, deviants, and enablers of those who are predators and deviants, including potentially Donald Trump. We're going to cover the most obvious examples of this that have unfolded over the last week. Let's start in Florida. Fort Pierce City Commissioner James Taylor, one of the quote-unquote pro-family Republicans running on a Protect the Children platform, was arrested last week on 24 felony counts of child exploitation.
Today, Fort Pierce City Commissioner James Taylor is being held at the St. Lucie County Jail, accused of having inappropriate communication with a minor. According to the arrest report, Taylor is facing 24 felony charges, all related to inappropriate communication with a minor, according to the sheriff's office. The investigation started in August of 2024 when the Evanston Police Department in Illinois was told by a mother of a 13-year-old girl she was receiving Snapchats from an adult man. The police department says the chat started when the girl was 12 and increasingly became more sexually explicit, with the suspect eventually sending nudes of himself over Snapchat.
He could be identified in these photos, and they were explicit and just, I wouldn't even, inappropriate is not even the word.
The police department in Illinois traced those Snapchats back to St. Lucie County. That's when the sheriff's office was notified. Their investigation eventually revealed that the suspect involved in the chats was believed to be Fort Pierce City Commissioner James Taylor, commissioner for District 2, who was just elected to his seat last November. He was arrested during a traffic stop this morning.
Here's a brief summary of those 24 of Taylor's charges. 6 counts of transmission of materials harmful to minors by electronic equipment, 6 counts of transfer or display of obscenity to a minor, 6 counts of harmful communication to a minor, 4 counts of lewd computer solicitation of a child, 2 counts of solicitation of transmission of child pornography by electronic device or equipment. Taylor appeared in court on Friday, his head down while wearing an orange jumpsuit, as the judge read those charges aloud. His bond was set at $360,000. Trying to distance themselves as quickly as possible from the indicted potential felon, local leaders are calling for Taylor's resignation. GOP Representative Brian Mast called the charges, quote unquote, beyond reprehensible, and is currently drafting a letter of resignation to Taylor. But if these people actually cared about the children, like the child Taylor, who is accused of harming, they would maybe be trying to figure out why this kind of thing is so pervasive in their party in the first place. Then we have Jason Yates. This is the former CEO of My Faith Votes, a Republican group that brands itself as the moral compass of the Republican Party, which is funny because it doesn't look like there is any moral compass in evidence in the Republican Party. In federal court this week, Yates has just pled guilty to 2 felony counts of possessing child sexual abuse images. Yates was first arrested in 2024 after a relative discovered a hard drive hidden in his office containing more than 100 sexually explicit images of children. According to investigators, this was not the first time. Yates had a previous conviction for possessing child sexual abuse material that was later expunged. According to Wired, the organization Yates ran, My Faith Votes, spent millions of dollars in get out the vote operations in order to help Donald get elected. Apparently, people with suspect sexual proclivities like to stick together. Yates is the same person who has spent years telling his followers that Democrats are godless and that Christians need to take back the country. And by Christians, I assume he means white people who believe anything that kind of man has to tell them. In Oklahoma, the state's far-right superintendent of public instruction, Ryan Walters, is under criminal investigation for showing explicit content. This is the guy who spent months forcing schools to teach the Bible, naming anti-LGBTQ plus extremists to education committees, and trying to ban books he considered pornographic. Well, as it turns out, on his office TV during a closed-door State Board of Education meeting, something inconvenient happened to appear on the TV screen in the background of his office. As the Rolling Stone reported, quote, Oklahoma's Donald-loving, Bible-thumping superintendent faces porn probe, unquote. Two board members say they looked up and saw nude women walking across his screen. As one member, Becky Carson, described the incident to the Oklahoman, quote, those are naked women. No, wait a minute. Surely those aren't naked women. Maybe they just have on tan bodysuits. This is just really bizarre. I'm sorry I haven't even have to use this language, but I'm like, those are her nipples. That's her pubic hair. What in the world am I watching? I was so disturbed by it. I said, what is on your TV? Turn it off now, unquote. Walters turned around to see the image they were talking about, leapt up to run across the room and turn the television off, which, according to those watching, he could not figure out how to do. Since then, Walters has not apologized. Why would he? Instead, he's doing exactly what Donald Trump has told every single Republican in trouble to do: deny everything repeatedly. Fox 23 has his response.
After first calling the allegations against him a, quote, distraction, Walters released a new statement Sunday, saying he was the victim of a political attack and said, quote, any suggestion that a device of mine was used to stream inappropriate content on the television set is categorically false. I have no knowledge of what was on the TV screen during the alleged incident, and there is absolutely no truth to any implication of wrongdoing. But the statement is contradictory to what board members have told Fox 23 they saw on a TV screen in Walters' office. Board members Becky Carson and Ryan Dethridge both said they directly witnessed fully naked women playing on a TV in Walters' office during a closed-door meeting. Board members like Mike Tinney and Chris Vandahen both told Fox 23 their backs were turned to the TV when the nudity was allegedly being displayed. But they say Walters frantically tried to remove the images from the screen when confronted by Carson, openly saying something along the lines of, quote, I see naked women, I see naked women.
State lawmakers, including Republicans, are demanding he unlock his devices and cooperate with investigators. But remember, this is the same person who has been crusading against pornography in schools, and yet he seems to be a consumer of it himself, because hypocrisy and republicanism now seem to go hand in hand. And finally, in Texas, GOP State Representative Giovanni Caprilon admitted to a 17-year affair with a former exotic dancer. The woman, Alex Grack, says he paid her for meetups and funded multiple abortions during their relationship. And last week, she took to TikTok to admit to the affair in her own words. Take a look.
I know that Giovanni Caprilon has been having affairs since 2005 because it's me. I'm her. I'm not proud of it. In fact, I'm ashamed of it. Hopefully you can keep in mind that we all have a past. And I wish I could say for him that that was the worst of it, but it's not. Due to legal reasons, I can't divulge much more until tomorrow. And then I believe I'm free to divulge everything, is my understanding. So I have every intention of doing that.
I do not care about other people's personal lives, typically speaking. As long as whatever an adult human being does with another adult human being is consensual, it is none of my business, with one exception. The woman with whom Caprilon had an alleged affair is not passing legislation that has an impact on other people's lives. She's not trying to restrict or take away entirely women's reproductive freedom. He is. He, of course, denies the abortion allegations, but remember, this is the same man who authored Texas's trigger ban that outlawed nearly all abortions after Roe v. Wade was overturned. How could he possibly admit to having done such a thing? This is the guy who made it a crime, punishable by up to life in prison, to help someone get access to an abortion. Now he's being called on to resign by members of his own party. It should be clear by now that the kinds of misconduct we've been talking about are a feature, not a bug, in the Republican Party. After all, their leader is a man currently at the center of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, a scandal that Donald Trump continues to shine a bright light on because he cannot punch his way out of a paper bag. But regardless of what we learn, if we learn anything about Donald's alleged complicity in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes or his appearance in the Epstein files or any ancillary activities he engaged in, we can't forget that Republicans made him the leader of their party despite knowing that as many as 23 women credibly accused Donald Trump of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and worse. They chose as a leader of their party a man who is clearly a misogynist to the core, and worst of all, a man who was found by a jury of his peers to be an adjudicated rapist. Why would it surprise us that at every single level of this corrupt, rotting party, that there would be men who are also rapists, men who engage in extramarital affairs and pay for abortions while crafting legislation to harm women for getting access to reproductive health? Why should it surprise us that the leader of a party who refers to an island or an invitation to an island where girls and young women were assaulted, abused, and worse, a privilege, would have among its ranks child predators? There is no going back here, and there is no other way to put it. In addition to being a party of fascists, the Republican Party is a party that encourages and protects the worst kinds of sexual predators. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.